Hey everyone, Pastor George here with today's Bible study recap. And today in Bible study, we looked at Ephesians 3. Now, something to know about the book of Ephesians is it can be broken up basically in half into two different categories. The first is chapters 1 through 3, the second is 4 through 6. And the book of Ephesians, the first three, are what some people like to call the indicatives. Now, that is a weird word, usually used only in the study of language. So, what does that mean? Well, the indicatives talk about who God is, right? It's about describing someone, indicating, right, what's at the what holds Christianity together. And 4 through 6 are the imperatives, which is what do you do in response to that, right? How do you live your life? So, the third chapter of Ephesians ends the indicative section of the book. Of course, I always wonder if this was intended by Paul or if this is our reading of it, but it's clear that Paul is kind of drawing to finish the stuff that he's been building, right? Last week we looked at chapter 2. In chapter 2, we talked about the role of Gentiles in the new church and that they are full heirs, right? That they are true Israelites, all that type of stuff. You see that again today, but instead of addressing both groups, Paul is probably addressing the majority of the church here, right? Because he says he's going to talk to the Gentiles now, which in Ephesus probably was majority Gentile church and that surrounding area. So he explains to them kind of why he does what he does. These are in the first few verses. And he then wants to again drive this point home that the church is a unified people. And I think this is so important to Paul, right? It's in all of his letters. We talked about it last week, so I won't belabor the point so much. But he wants to really make sure the Gentiles get that they are true Israelites through their faith. That's what's important for Paul. So, but Paul kind of doesn't want people to become too boastful either. He wants to be very clear that you don't do this because it makes you special or anything like that. Because he highlights his own unworthiness in verse 8. And I think that that's something that we as all Christians should do, right? That it isn't how awesome we are that God chose us, or that how awesome how awesome we have served him or whatever. But really, we have to remember why we do the things that we do. And I think that in verse 8, Paul says that, right? He says, "To me, I'm the very least of all the saints." Now, of course, looking back, we typically do not regard Paul that way. Some Christians do, but he certainly is not the least of all the saints. But and I don't think this is faux humility. I think what he's trying to do is he's showing us, that you're not judged by how amazing you are. And he's trying to show, if I was judged by my acts, I don't deserve to be the greatest among the saints. And if you know the story of Paul, you might understand why he would say that. So Paul then moves on to a prayer. And in this prayer, he prays for the Ephesian church, and he wants them to be powerful and strong and united in Christ. And so he goes into this, right, that he wants them to understand all the mystery and stuff like that, and he prays for spiritual strength, and that's how the chapter of Ephesians 3 ends. And you'll see here that this is, again, remember we talked about the indicatives, like just the soaring language that Paul uses throughout the beginning of Ephesians points us to him, right, according to the riches of his glory, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful language. And so what he wants everyone there to be is grounded in Christ. That is how he desires the Ephesian church to work. And you'll notice in Ephesians, he uses a lot of different ways to refer to the relationship of the church and Christ. The most famous image from Ephesians is the bride and bridegroom imagery. But there's other ways that it becomes important. Or not bridegroom. I apologize. It's the husband and wife imagery. I always get that confused because they're so similar, but it's husband and wife imagery in Ephesians. Bride and bridegroom is in Revelation. So all that's to say is that Paul here is ending this part of his his thing by refocusing us, right? Because now he's going to tell us what to do. And the thing about telling people what to do is no one wants to hear it. But if you are able to remember that Paul is telling you what to do, not because it's Paul telling you what to do it, but because these are the teachings of Christ and you should be following him, and that's who you're supposed to be united with and grounded in and everything else, then it becomes an easier pill to swallow, right? So that's why whenever we want to tell people what's stronger, it's like, well, or what to do, it's because it's grounded in something greater, not because I think it's good and you need to listen to what I say. So important thing to understand. All right, everyone, thank you for listening to me today, and I will see you guys tomorrow for our new thing episode, bright and early. So I'm excited for that, and I'll hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Peace out.